Dr. Jeremy Weiss here. I'm founder of InspiredInsider.com, where I talk with inspirational entrepreneurs and leaders like the founders of P90X, Baby Einstein, Atari, and many more, and how they overcome big challenges in life and business. This is part of the Skubana e-commerce mastery series, where top sellers and experts teach you what really works to boost your e-commerce business. Skubana is a software platform to manage your entire e-commerce operation. And today we have Tom Sanders. I searched near and far. Chad helped me because he can be nowhere to be found on the internet. Tom Sanders is founder of OurPamperedHome.com. They were ranked among the top 100 sellers overall on Amazon. To give you an idea, they have had over 212,756 reviews at the present time and counting. They have year-over-year growth of over 40% for the past 12 years and have grown into one of the top online retailers. Tom, thanks for joining me.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
I'm really excited, and like I was saying before, you're really hard to track down. There's not much information about you, and so I want to get into talking about some of the benefits to staying hidden. Because right now, obviously, you're not, because we're talking. What are some of the benefits to that?
As a small retailer, as a startup, somebody selling something on eBay, Amazon, one of the emerging marketplaces like a Newegg or Sears, that as you start to build some momentum and some steam, some of the bigger sellers like we are today, or whoever the big sellers were when we were small, don't really want their pie to be eaten into. So not putting yourself out there in as much of the, not necessarily public eye, but even in a hidden sense, but gloating about what you've done and so forth, makes other people want to maybe kick your butt. Yeah, take and do what you've done, take a piece of that action, and we just never saw a need to put ourselves out there. It didn't help in a sense to growing the business. And I was asked to hear and speak, and thought that it would be something good.
Yeah. So what are the benefits to getting out there now?
At this point, getting out there for us is kind of just telling our story, helping some of the people who, when we were small, there is not a how-to book. There is not a, this is what you should do to run an e-commerce business. This is what you should do when you hit some of those roadblocks. And I stayed up many, many late nights, years of late nights and weekends trying to get this business model running and to something that, I can feed my family, I can, afford, a house and food and a car.
Right.
And in the beginning, it was a struggle that just nobody had an idea of what to do. There wasn't anything 8-10 years ago of what to do.
Just trial and error. So I want to get into when you were up those late nights, what was working, and then what were some mistakes you made. But I want to start with some of the big challenges, because we were talking right before we were starting about some of the biggest challenges in the beginning and then now. So tell me about those.
In the challenges in the beginning versus now are really a lot of the same things. It's when we were small and we were operating actually out of our house at the time, it started in a closet, went to the bedroom, went to the rest of the house, and then so forth, was space. And where do you put it? How do you operate? And as we continue to grow, it's still space. It's just we need a lot more of it. And capital, how do you buy stuff? In the beginning, it was we bought $500 in product from a vendor, and we kept reinvesting it. And to sell online, you need a lot more product than just a couple $1,000s in goods.
Right.
Depending on what you sell, that may last you the afternoon, and you're needing, at this scale, millions of dollars in inventory to be able to last you 30 days. It's a struggle.
It's a lot.
Going from a business that has $500,000 in inventory to double in size, you need to find another $500,000. You're either reinvesting yourself to get to that critical scale, or you find banks that somehow have a knowledge of what an e-commerce business does. Both are difficult.
So what are the best solutions you have found for capital purposes, and what are maybe some of the worst that you discovered never to do again?
The absolute best is discipline. When we started this business, and my dad is the other owner, that's where the TNT Enterprises comes from.
Gotcha.
Is me and my dad, Tom and Tom. It was a strict discipline of, if you profit $100, that at least in the beginning, $100 wasn't enough to take out and do anything with. But if you profit, let's say $10,000, you need to be reinvesting a whole lot of that, not just cutting yourself a check for $10,000, because you get used to that. Your business, all of a sudden doesn't have as great of a week, a month, whatever, and you still want to take out that $10,000, and your business starts to scale down, and ultimately goes into the death spiral, and we all forget your name.
So how long did you take before you were just reinvesting everything?
We were reinvesting everything for years. Years without. I didn't take a dollar paycheck until a couple years into the business being, at that point a halfway decent size. We were still small compared to what we are now, but we went years without taking any real money.
How do you decide that this is the time to take some money?
Once it was full time, once I had no other source of income, and quit my other job, and said, "This is it." A lot of people said, "You're not a real business until you start taking a paycheck," and we, more or less to prove them right, took a paycheck just to have it justifiable.
So what about other ways to get capital? Obviously reinvesting. What about outside? Are there outside means necessary?
Find a good credit card company. That'll at least get you 30 days of funds. You'll be shocked at some of the credit card limits that you can get if you're good about paying your bill. That's a 30-day. If you get 30 days from your vendor and 30 days on a credit card, you got 60 days. You can buy and sell stuff and get rid of it in less than 60 days a lot of times. On top of that, we bank, I'm not plugging Bank of America whatsoever, but we bank with Bank of America. We have a halfway decent line of credit with them as we continue to grow. And Amazon Lending as their new program. It's the interest rate isn't as great as you'll get from a bank.
It's a lot, I think, right?
Yeah, it's you're getting, depending on what status you're at with Amazon, it determines your rate and your experience there, but it's still not the best, but it's easy. You can have money in 3 days into your checking account, which is awesome.
So, reinvesting, line of credit, Amazon Lending, credit cards. So at the height, Tom, how many credit cards would you say you had out?
We still have credit cards out.
No, I mean, you still have them out, but I mean, one person I talked to, I think they took, I forgot how many, 10 credit cards or something. They put 30,000 each on, and they like 300,000. So
we've had a lot better success having one really large credit card that is our go-to card. We have 3 credit cards four. Sorry, we have 4 credit cards for this business. One just as a minor expense card. I don't want to carry around the big card with us because you can pay off your house with it.
Right. You don't want someone paying off their house with it.
Yeah. And then, just our kind of minor expense card if you need something on it. And then we have 3 other cards that we use for purchasing, an American Express and a Visa, and then kind of a backup American Express. If our cards get hacked or fraud, whatever you want to call it, it seems like every couple weeks. Bank of America's calling.
Really?
Yeah. Well, we deal with so many different vendors that they have something, and it seems like UPS is delivering a new credit card for one of us here that has them on a weekly basis.
So is it truly someone scamming your card, or is it just like a off purchase that you made with a vendor?
No, it's somebody used it for inmate, a collect call to an inmate to try to, try it. They went to Home Depot and, bought something. They went to Pizza Hut and bought $200 in pizza.
I've had that happen, actually. They did the same thing.
We've had it all happen on credit cards. And Bank of America is really good. They have a list of all our vendors, and they can, check it out. So,
yeah, they detect fraud really quickly.
Yeah.
What about terms, Tom? So, a big thing, obviously, capital's big, and then terms with vendors. Tell me, what should people know and do when dealing with their vendors in terms?
It we won't even go for terms on vendors when they're, what we would consider smaller. There's some that we will, but you have to be diligent about paying them to keep that relationship, because as your business grows, you don't want them to say, well, your line of credit with us is $5,000, $10,000, whatever it may be, and your orders now are $25,000, and them not scale your line of credit because you're slow paying your invoices.
Right.
You have to be able to rely on them as they rely on you.
Right.
They get your product, you get them money.
Yeah.
You do that, everything goes, perfect.
Yeah. I want to go into the early days in a second, how you went from the closet to your bedroom to the house to a warehouse. But first, just in general, what mistakes should people avoid? What common mistakes do you see other people making?
Not knowing how to buy and what to buy. You can't buy just what you think is going to sell. You have to have some hard data, and if you're buying something just to try it out, don't go taking pallet loads of them, because if it fails, if it doesn't work, if there's no margin in it, whatever the reason may be, you don't want to be stuck with something. Yeah. And we'll see not vendors, but other sellers going out and buying stuff that we look at it and just say, there is no rhyme or reason to what this person is doing. And why are they buying some of these items that, by all means, probably are not great sellers?
Yeah. So what's an example of that, if you could say? What was one that you saw was horrible, and you're like, why are they even buying this?
I don't want to call out the seller.
You don't have to call it the seller, but what was the actual product? Like, what type of product was it? We've seen it so many times. It's really difficult to pick up on examples. But you'll see some people buying toys that they're toys from a movie 3 years ago or something along those lines. And they're either stuck with the inventory still, or they just, they went through a catalog and said, give me 6 of everything. And you probably could have parsed that order down quite a bit, saved yourself some money, and put it into products that are going to serve your business better than just trying to increase your SKU count, because there's sellers out there with 100,000 SKUs in their catalog that are still doing less business than we are. It's picking the right items and knowing what you're buying before you buy it. It's a kind of a science, kind of an art. New vendors are more the art, where the repurchasing and how many you buy is the science behind it. It's something that when you're a little seller, you don't have that history, you don't have that knowledge. You have to really build up that, essentially your black book of, in a home and kitchen category, at a whatever sales rank, you need this many. And if you're competing against 5 other sellers, you need to deduct some sort of multiple from that. And being able to know how things are going to do just by looking at a page. And fortunately here, we've
got a lot of that data that we've compiled over years, but it does change with, let's say, Amazon, for example, growing year over year at this hyper rate. What your data says now is not going to be the same. It's not gravity. It's not a constant.
Right.
But things do change on all marketplaces. And
so what's your decision? Talk about, Tom, your decision making in the beginning compared to now. Like, what type of data, what things were you looking at in the beginning, and now how has it grown, and how has it gotten more sophisticated?
In the beginning, we took a real, what we called in the beginning, a shotgun approach. You sawed off the barrel of your shotgun and you fired it out at, a few hundred products.
Right.
And we did what small sellers typically do.
Right.
They don't have that data, and in the beginning, we sold vacuum supplies. That's what this business started on, was kind of the home and kitchen vacuum products. And we'd say, you know what, bring in 100 different bags, and we'll bring in a couple of each. What sold, you rebuy. What doesn't, you probably still have in the back of the warehouse here, 10 years later. But that in the beginning, it was just let's go out there and let's increase SKU count. There was a whole lot more money to be made online, though, 10 years ago. Before there was 2.5 million seller accounts on Amazon. Pricing has eroded. Fees have gone up. Not that either of those are necessarily a bad thing. They kind of are, both a bad thing. But in the beginning, you could gamble a bit more on stuff, and it would work out. Where now, if you drop a bunch of money on goods and you don't have, a backup amount of cash to keep you going, you could really, do some negative impact to your business. And we've had some buys in the beginning that didn't work out. There wasn't the money in it that we thought. There wasn't the volume. But the last time we've had a real bad instance, that whether myself, and I still purchase product here, or my wife is another purchaser, or my father purchases, that we've had a really bad one, it's been a while. So we've been very, very fortunate.
Yeah. So tell me, what's some of the decision-making process look like today that you can share?
I've stopped taking on as many new vendors. My wife and father both are still kind of building out their, let's say, individual catalogs. My wife, when she came onto the business, I told her originally, hey, we have this vacuum supplier. We're buying stuff from them. We're doing really well with it. Just look through their catalog, figure out what you want to buy. And she had quit her job, moved here to Lake Havasu, where we operate. And I gave her about 48 hours, and she was ready to leave, just go find something, because she doesn't like vacuum stuff. She doesn't want to buy vacuum stuff.
I can see that. Okay, I can understand that.
But I'm not gonna come in here for the next however many years and buy vacuum stuff, because it bores me to tears.
Right.
So at the time I said, what do you want to buy? What
Famous
is gonna
last words, Tom.
Yeah, what's gonna entertain you and keep you excited?
Right.
And the first product that she bought, we still sell to this day. We've done very, very well with it. And since then, it's just been here's a credit card and go to town. The nice thing is she shops here at work instead of shopping as much at home, because she's worn out by it, which is great. When my dad started purchasing, it was the same thing. It's, don't try to buy something that you have no interest in. I would be terrible at buying women's clothing or purses or something that just completely is uninteresting to me.
Right.
And it's ultimately going to lead to failure, because you're not going to put your 100% into it.
Yeah.
Where she likes buying pet stuff and she likes buying kitchen goods, she likes cooking. and does exceptionally well at finding those
And she
products.
probably knows a lot about it, so whatever it is, so she, yeah.
But you still learn. You're always learning. If you're not willing to learn, or at least listening to what other people are telling you, you don't have to read into it as if it's, gospel or anything. But you have to have an open mind. Otherwise, you're really just losing out on that free information, whether it be from vendors, customers, anyone. It's the information that you can get for free from listening to people is well beyond what you can get from just Googling something a lot of times.
So what would you say, out of mistakes to avoid, what would you say the biggest mistake was throughout the years that you or the company made as far as product goes?
The biggest mistake we made as a company, as a company, business decision, was we figured a number of years back that we would buy some property. We were growing out of what we had at the time. We bought a dirt lot. We were going to build a building because in this town there's not a lot of commercial warehousing. There's not much at all. So we were going to build something. It was at the time going to be 22,000 square feet.
Wow.
That's going to be what gets us to retirement. That'll last us forever. Fortunately, we didn't go through with it. We ended up saying the cost to build was
really expensive.
Yeah, it was more. It was significantly more than we paid for our current warehouse per square foot. And the building that we're in is in a multi-unit complex. So we have our store that's on the front of the building. It's the corner of the entire building on the street side, which gives us some great retail frontage on one of the main, not thoroughfares, but it's in a pretty populated area, still near the residential district. And there's 16 units in this building, so if we need more space, all we got to do is go buy another.
Right.
And we can take little nibbles as we get bigger instead of having to relocate and buy a whole other warehouse. Unfortunately, the building that we're in now is starting to become harder to acquire space in. So we're back to that kind of balancing. How do we continue to grow without having a lot of space? But it costs a lot of money. We still own that dirt lot.
Oh, you do?
We still do. We haven't sold it. We've tried to sell it. We paid for an engineer, an architect, all those prints to be drawn up, and it was an expensive learning experience. The most expensive learning experience we've had in this business.
Yeah, it could have been more expensive if you ended up, building the building though.
Yeah, we were fortunate to know, let's get out, and that saved us a lot, millions of dollars.
Yeah. So this is interesting, Tom. So I didn't know you have a storefront. What was the decision? What made you decide to have the store and the warehouse and the offices?
We've always had a store. My parents actually owned a brick and mortar retail store together before my dad jumped into this business.
Gotcha.
That it's having a store, opens a lot of opportunity for you. Brick and mortar retail is not a huge part of our business, but it allows us to service customers locally. And I think as you grow, just being an online retailer becomes something you can't do. You cannot just be a brick and mortar retailer and get to a real large scale, because they're a dime a dozen. You need to be servicing customers, not just selling to customers.
Right.
If you just sell on eBay and you have no customer service, and you just tell all your customers that I don't care if you have any questions, go ask somebody else and then buy from me.
It's not going to happen. Yeah.
You're going to have a real tough time scaling.
Yeah. So, Tom, what has worked the best in the beginning, and what works the best now as far as increasing sales?
It's all about, you've got to have a catalog, a good catalog. There's nothing that will get around having good products.
Yeah.
You can have 100,000 of the world's worst selling products. Not that they're bad, but the worst selling products, and your business is destined to have struggles. Where if you have 500 of the top 500 sellers on Amazon, you're going to be minting money like there's no tomorrow. So you definitely want to pick those right items and something that there's a cohesiveness to. There's some people that just sell random this, and this.
Yeah.
And we do sell a lot of, somewhat seemingly random stuff, but we try to keep everything in a normal school of thought.
Yeah.
We sell kitchen goods. We sell
you do a good job actually, kind of breaking it, when I was looking at it, into categories, right? You have like the health category, the beauty category, the home and kitchen category. So it doesn't seem as random because you kind of segment it.
Yeah. And you could almost put names of people who purchase a lot of that stuff above them. My wife does very, very well with the baby stuff. Don't have kids. Don't, I'm not going to get entertained by buying a lot of baby stuff, but she does. And that's, that essentially anything that is baby is purchased by her because she likes it. I would get bored to tears by, just looking at baby stuff because I don't understand it, which is where having a really good team of people that you can rely on is critical to getting to a business to this scale. It's, you can run an e-commerce business at a small scale with just a few people, but we're doing $1.5 million, 1.5 a year in orders. You can't do that hypothetically, just selling vacuum bags.
So what's your favorite category, personally?
It's, for me, I've tried to disassociate myself a lot with the products because there's a lot of other stuff that I do with the business now that I did 3 years ago when I was growing catalog.
Yeah.
It's become more of who do I like buying from, and who do I want to pick up the phone and call and talk to or send an email to, and that's having those relationships make it a lot easier than just liking the product because it's I don't like buying vacuum bags for the sake of buying vacuum bags. I like buying vacuum bags, which is the category that I buy, or one of the categories that I buy. I like buying them because I like the people that I deal with on a consistent basis when I'm buying them.
Yeah.
So if all of a sudden I had to switch vendors or switch sales reps or something like that, it would be a whole lot more tedious to come into work and try to buy that product. I buy the sports nutrition products in our account, and it's the same thing. I enjoy dealing with those sales reps and those people with that company. So it makes it easier, for me at least. But there's a lot more.
Yeah. So tell me this, in the beginning. Let's go back to the beginning for a second. Early on, what was a big influence for you? Your parents had what kind of store when you were growing up?
They ran a vacuum retailer.
Oh, they did?
Brick and mortar vacuum store, which is essentially how I got a foot in the door. Real similar to Chad.
Yeah, it's so funny. It's like exactly the same.
There's a lot of weird similarities between our stories. But we had never met or anything. But my parents had a brick and mortar retailer for vacuum stuff they had for a number of years. And when I had lost my job as a financial advisor, stock market went down, it just went to crap. And I was like, I need a job. Me and my wife were getting married, recently married, and had to pay the bills, had to keep food on the table. So it was, let me go apply for some jobs during the day, and when I get home, let me sell something online. And they were, a couple hundred miles away. I contacted their supplier that they did because they didn't care. I was just going to sell it on eBay.
What
And
made you decide to sell it online? You could have just been like, I'm just going to apply to jobs and never think about selling it online.
when I was in high school, I sold some of their stuff online. They would take trade-ins for vacuum cleaners. They sold somebody a new one. Hey,
Yeah.
we'll give you $50 off if you trade in that old one that you have here. And I would take them, I'd clean them up, and I'd sell them on eBay as a high school job. At the time, you still can do that, but you could do that pretty easy as a high school kid. And that was my first real experience with online retail. Was ways ago, maybe 15, 18 years ago.
So that's stuck in your head at the time.
Yeah, I knew that I could make some money. It might not have been enough to pay all the bills, but at least I was contributing to, our newly formed household when we were just married. And even though we didn't take anything out, I still felt like, okay, at some point we can just sell all this inventory off, and then we can, maybe pay the mortgage one month or pay the car payment, whatever it may be. And we were fortunate enough at the time that my wife could, sustain us as a family. And we don't do a lot.
Not big spenders. Yeah.
Yeah. They have our dog, and we, have our TV and just hang out and, enjoy that.
Yeah. So, Tom, I want to hear about the early days when you started selling online after the financial, crisis. But go back. What did you learn from your parents growing up? Because you saw them running and the entrepreneurs and running a store. What was it like? What are you laughing about? There's a good story here.
There's a lot of good stories with that one. When my parents ran their store, my dad would go out and he was your vacuum cleaner salesman. Right. They had a store that they sold out of, but it was never, a lot of money, let's say. And he worked really hard, really, really hard to support, the family as we were growing up. And I'm like, I'm not going to go into that family business, and do that. I'm not. So I tried a couple months, tried working with him after losing my job, and I hated it.
Why?
I was like,
what didn't you like?
It was, you're there trying to sell people something, and I've never liked high pressure sales. If I want to buy something at the store and I have a question about it, I'll ask you. If I'm there looking at, something, just browsing around, I don't need a salesperson coming to me telling me that I need to buy this because their, commission depends on it. So online sales is really low pressure. You can do it from the, from the couch.
No pressure.
I'm not pressuring people to buy anything. And it's, if you want something, buy it from me.
What'd you learn from your parents about selling? Because you can translate that selling in person to online, too, right?
Yeah, you might. I don't know if it was more the selling as the running a business that I got from them.
Okay.
I don't feel like I'm a great salesperson.
Yeah.
If I was, I probably would have liked it and been really good at it, and this business wouldn't exist.
So what'd you learn about running the business side of things?
That I never really wanted to work for the man of sorts. I wanted to be able to reap the benefits of doing a really good job, because I feel like I work pretty hard. I'm working 60, 70 hours a week still. That I don't want to just make, $10 an hour or $12 an hour if I'm really, really good at something, because it makes me work harder at it. And the harder my parents worked at selling stuff, the more they made, and I saw that. And not that they did a bad job running a business, but I learned a lot of things, how we do things differently than how they did things. One of the biggest was reinvest in the business and grow it, because if you have a bad month or two, you still want to be able to be growing that business, taking steps forward and forward and forward. It might not be as big of a step, but if you're taking out 100% of your profits or anywhere close to it, that growing that business the next month is immensely harder than getting to be able to grow it as you're taking out all that money just to pay your bills on a monthly basis. That they closed their business down when this business started taking real paychecks, regular paychecks, and enough to sustain life as a human being.
Right.
And I'm happy about that. They've done well for themselves owning this business instead of that one.
So what was it like? So you started off then selling. You come home for your job or searching for jobs, and you start selling in the evening. What was next? What progressed? What it progressed to?
I ended up, as the business was kind of growing, I ended up getting a job, and I worked we lived in Henderson, right outside Las Vegas, and I worked at a casino.
Oh, really? What'd you do?
I initially started in a sports book, and then ended up working in a poker room.
Okay.
And worked in a poker room for a while this business grew. And I was very fortunate to have that experience. Taught me a lot about calculated risk. And
tell me about it. What did you learn from watching poker players?
Really, it's there's a cost-benefit analysis that you do as a good poker player, and you can take risks, take gambles, if you can afford to lose, something, and know that what you're doing is going to work out for the best in the long run. Because it's not like you're playing blackjack. If I worked as a blackjack dealer, I would, just know not to gamble. But as a poker player, there was consistently people winning, and I played a lot of poker as a poker dealer. And one of the biggest things that happened was, as I was working as a poker dealer near the end of that part of my life, I had a boss who was a friend as well, and I started at 5 days a week. And I asked him, hey, I'm having to work so much. I'm getting off work, and I'm going home, and I'm working until 3, 4 in the morning. I've got to get a break. Can I go down to 4 days? And went down to 3 days, went down to 2 days. And then it got to be that I would show up for work, and I would eat lunch or breakfast or whatever time I got in, and they would be like, hey, we're slow today. Does anybody want to go home? And I'd be like, right here. I worked for half an hour. All I did was eat. And he pulled me into his office, and he said, Tom, you've got to think about what you're doing, because clearly you don't need to be here. And that was the real tipping point of, somebody not firing me, because sure, if you want to come in and when we need you, we're not letting you go, but said, you don't need to be here. This is no longer your job. This is just, you're here because you're friends with the people here and you like it when you're here. But if you want to be here, just come play poker someday.
Yeah.
I wish I could reconnect with him because it was a great experience. Just being told, stop showing up for work and do this. It was it paid off many dividends.
So I want to hear about what you were doing to grow the business during that time, but I have to ask, what's your favorite poker room story?
I used to play on the clock when things were slow, and they still do. If you're a poker dealer in Vegas, they'll let you play on the clock if it's to get a game started and so forth. And there's not really a specific story of sorts, but when things were slow, personally, I helped pay our bills playing poker. It's, I guess, a little known fact, but we every year at one of the trade shows, they have a charity poker event, and I think 3 of the 4 years I've come in the top, I think 4.
Right.
out of a bunch of people. So it's a lot of fun. I still enjoy it, but we live an hour away from a casino, and I'm usually at work, so I don't get the chance to play as often as others.
I figured you were like, oh, I went head to head with Michael Jordan when he came in Vegas or something.
No, nothing. At the time I was, had enough to play, but not enough to get in trouble.
So, what were you doing to grow the business during that time so that you can go from 5? Because, I mean, someone listening may be in the same situation. They want to go from 5 days to 4 to the boss saying, you don't need to show up anymore. What were you doing to grow the business?
We constantly reinvested in inventory because at first we had only bought a little bit of inventory. And we were, you sell $500 and you made $100, you buy $600. And you can't buy just $600 of that same product. Some products you can, but it was really growing SKU count. We started with maybe a dozen or two SKUs. And just instead of buying just the Hoover vacuum bags, buy the Dyson filters and buy the Bissell bags and whatever other items it was until you get a sizable catalog, because anybody can sell 10 SKUs. It's getting to the thousands of SKUs that a lot of kind of the smaller and mid-sized sellers now have to be a sustainable business. A meaningful, not that small sellers aren't a meaningful business, but something that was enough for us to pay our bills and quit our day jobs.
So at what point do you have a certain formula, like we want to get a new SKU every 2 weeks or month in that early stages? How fast did you want to grow, or did you see it sustainable to grow?
At the beginning, it was just grow as fast as you can. Just as when you're buying inventory, I would say, okay, and I would call them up on the phone. I'd roll through what I needed for inventory, and I'd say, how much does that add up to be? And I knew what the balance was in our account at the time. And I would say, your balance, what you owe us today is $5,000, and I had $6,000 in the account. And we didn't have other expenses because we were operating out of the house. And I'd say, let me know when we get to 6 then. And I'd spend the other $1,000 on product. And we would sell it, and I would call them up, a week or two later and say, I've got 7. I'm going to order what I need and do the same thing over again. It's a bit different now as we're large because we're not spending everything that we have because there's other expenses to have to cover. But the formula is still the same. It's grow as much as you can, as fast as you can, because if you're not growing, you're shrinking. And I say that all the time here to business people that we deal with, to vendors, to our employees, is if we do the same thing that we did the past 12 months, we're shrinking actually, because somebody else is getting bigger than us. The world of e-commerce is growing at 15% a year, and if we're growing any less than that 15% a year, somebody else is kicking our butt, and we're just taking it because we want to do the same thing we did a year ago. And a lot of people just get to a point of being okay, not realizing that really sooner or later your market share, even if it's just a sliver of what the real market is actually shrinking as more and more people are buying online.
What was working at that time for you to get through inventory quicker? What works?
A lot of times, as when times are needed, we've built a program for our inventory management and how much we buy and so forth. And we can say, okay, instead of having 90 days worth of inventory or 78 days worth of inventory, you can shave it down to, okay, we're only going to hold 27 days worth of inventory or something smaller. So you have more capital, and you can grow that catalog really fast by holding less days of inventory, because you still have the same amount of money to buy goods with. So shrink it down to 30 days instead of 90. Take the other 60 days that you now sold off of everything else, and go buy 2,000 new SKUs. See how those do. And then when you start building things back up, and it's over a year period of time, during fourth quarter, you're not buying a lot of new stuff. You're typically concentrating on just getting as much of everything that you sell in-house and being able to afford it. So that way when come, Black Friday and all of a sudden you sell 1,000 of something, you didn't only sell 500 because that's all you bought, or that's all you could afford.
Mm-hmm.
Then come, January, it's let's buy 2,500 new SKUs. For us, it's more than that now, but it's catalog growth because we sell, somewhere in the 14,000 SKU range right now.
Yeah.
How do we get from those 14,000 SKUs this year? If we want to grow at 40%, we probably need to get to somewhere in the, 30,000 range by next year at this time to continue our trajectory. That's a lot of SKUs.
It's a lot of SKUs. Yeah. A couple things come up around that time. One...
Sorry, it would actually be like 20, 21, 22. Sorry. But
yeah, a couple things come up. One is the breakdown. What would you tell people about having your own brand versus selling other known brands?
We've taken the approach of not selling our own brand, not going to a China, which is where most stuff comes from these days.
Yeah.
Not everything, but not saying we're going to import a filter, a vacuum bag, whatever it may be, and put our name on it, because there's a lot of really well-established brands out there that we can buy, and we don't have as much risk of sorts of saying let's bring in a container of goods for an unproven brand that we call it our Pampered Home widgets.
Mm-hmm.
We could, at this point we're at a scale where that probably wouldn't be really difficult, but why not just, if we're going to bring in kitchen glasses or mixers or something like that, why not just go with the well-known home run hitters, the Rito Glassware, Lennox, or Waterford, or something along those lines.
Mm-hmm.
And there's no need for us to try to recreate the wheel. We're giving customers those specialty brands that we sell, and not, if we tried to sell KitchenAid mix or our version of a KitchenAid mixer, KitchenAid would squash us. So why try to compete? Even we've just never thought the need would arise for us in that sense. And I know other people have and done well with it, but it's not our specialty.
I always like to hear both sides of that. Why some, because I know people do, people don't.
Yeah.
So that that makes sense. And then what about software-wise? What kind of software do you use? What kind of tools? Because you say, okay, we need to add 10,000 SKUs of something. Mm-hmm. Somehow it has to get entered onto your website, onto Amazon, onto all these other platforms.
If you were to see our browser history on, just random stuff that we're looking for, it would be mind-boggling. It's nonstop between myself, my wife, my dad, who are really looking for some of those brands and going to trade shows. Mm-hmm. We go to trade shows all the time to find products. But as far as software goes, our software that we use, Google Chrome, Microsoft Excel, and Microsoft Outlook for email. That's our powerhouse of what we use every day. We are a customer of a software platform for getting stuff out there and warehouse management, but it's not critical to finding product. Really, mm-hmm. There's a lot of feel for it. Going through, looking at, if you want to sell, if you want to be a vacuum bag seller, and there's a number of them out there, you have to know what you're looking for, because you can't go sell the brand that doesn't do well, and there's a couple, you want to go for the stuff that you're going to be able to turn inventory instead of selling a few a year, because that's a tough sell in that sense too. But it's a lot of just browsing online, finding brands, listening to what your customers tell you, and talking to your customers, talking to your customer service people, saying, hey, what has somebody asked for? Did somebody say, hey, do you have a widget? And do you have that widget? And when they tell them no, that's key information right there, because somebody wants to buy it.
Right.
So why can't we sell it? Right?
So what have you done differently because you listened to your customers, whether it was a certain product or category?
We really, in the beginning, were very home and kitchen, whether it be vacuums, whether it be mixers, whether it be small appliances, glassware, tabletop, those type categories, and going into stuff. Why don't you sell baby stuff? Well, we didn't sell baby stuff because it didn't occur at the time. So we've expanded into that. Why didn't you sell toys? Well, we didn't know where to buy them. And you have to have a good buyer, or multiple buyers, purchasers, of people who are looking at the products, looking at what vendors sell, and listen to your sales reps too, because they know what sells. Absolutely, and you have to trust your sales rep too. Yeah. Don't just buy what they're getting a huge commission on because they want a new car. You have to build that trust over a long period of time, especially when you're putting your livelihood at risk, because I don't need 1,000 blenders. I can't send them to my electric company and say, here's blenders for my electric bill. So listen to everything around you. Listen to your customers who say, I want this brand baby carrier or stroller or something like that. Listen to this person who says, hey, why don't you sell this pet toy? Or this person who says, hey, this new vacuum cleaner, I've heard about it. Do you sell parts for it? Probably not yet, but I'm going to try to find out if I can, and grow your catalog that way.
So Tom, what about not software finding products? What about just like whether they're entering them into one of your website or Amazon or wherever, or any tools you use just to run the business software wise?
We do so much of that manually.
Really?
Yeah.
I don't know how you do that with like 10,000 SKUs.
Yeah, everything has been done manually. We don't do, at least for Amazon, we don't do data feeds. And there's reasons behind it, because we want to make sure that when we're putting in a specific SKU, that it matches the detail page on that website, that we're not just trusting that whoever created that detail page on Rakuten, which is notoriously, I'm not throwing them under the bus, but yeah, they're bad at their data feed. If you do a data feed to them just by what you think is the correct information, and somebody else said that, hey, they took the UPC number for the vacuum bags and put all the pictures and details and so forth to the vacuum cleaner, you're going to get a customer who buys the vacuum cleaner for $20, and you send them the bags, which you think is correct, and you now have a customer wanting a $800 vacuum cleaner that they knew was wrong, but they're trying to beat you out of it.
Right.
On Amazon, we don't have that because we put in everything manually to get it right. And our customers, we have 100% positive feedback over the past 365 days on Amazon. With that volume, it's a lot of manual work. Yeah, it's a lot of manual work to get there.
Yeah.
And we've always done it that way, and I don't think that will change. We now have people that help us with it, because it used to be just me, my dad, and my wife who would put stuff in, and now we have essentially assistants and helpers to help us with that. Yeah. But even when up to about a year ago, we did it all manually. ourselves. So there's nothing
So,
wrong with it.
no, I think it's amazing. I was just thinking, how do you even begin to do that? I mean, you probably have like 10 people entering in SKUs or something. But so you go from selling the vacuum bags and cleaners and parts and growing. So what was the next category that you decided to go into?
The next with me purchasing, when I was still doing all the purchasing myself, was sports nutrition.
Mm-hmm.
Your proteins, your pre-workouts, your stuff like that. And it was for no other reason other than I was going to the gym, obviously not anymore, but I was like, hey, you know what? Why can't we sell this stuff?
Mm-hmm.
And found a vendor, and I still deal with that same sales rep today that I did, for the past 7 years.
Yeah.
And we're good friends at this point. We've talked, pretty much daily for years.
Yeah.
But in the beginning, he's just like, you're just a crazy dude who thinks he can run, a supplement business like everybody else that calls me up. And at the time, that was the case. We probably shouldn't have entered that market, but
why not?
It's that product is one of the hardest to purchase because your price is never the same.
Really?
What you buy it for today, it's really weird, and you have to be very good at math and figuring out what your landed cost is for something, because you may buy 3 of product X and they're going to give you a product Y as like a promo unit, and you're going to lose money if you just sell product X.
Mm.
So you have to assign a value that you're going to sell product Y for and know you're going to sell product Y to be able to make your money. Because you'll never make money just selling product X. And
so they give you a bonus product if you buy certain products, or
in the supplement industry, sports nutrition supplement industry, pretty much everything is a buy 3 get 1, buy 4 get 1, buy 5 get 1, buy 11 get 1. And I think they do it honestly, so that way instead of just buying 1 of everything, you have to step up and buy 11,
right,
or whatever it may be, to get that kind of some real volume there, and you're not just buying 1 of everything to get your SKU count up. But that's a tougher one because you have to be very, very careful of your landed cost and competing against some of the other sellers who, honestly, I am curious some days how they're making money, because we fight for the best price that we can get.
Right.
And if I wasn't the one purchasing, I wouldn't just trust somebody else to try to bring in that product. You have to be very, very careful. And we've had some really big losses. It also expires. If you're not going to sell it fast, and know that you're going to sell it fast, the worst thing that you can have is something that says expired on.
Right. It's not like a vacuum bag filter that will never go bad. Yeah.
Yeah. If it's a food item or something that does expire, and you get stuck with it, they're paperweights. They're not even good paperweights. They're trash. And you can lose a lot of money. And we have. We've had some big losses there that we've done fine with, but you never want to lose on anything.
Right. So what's your research process like? I can imagine, because especially with, let's say you're working out, there's a million different types of proteins or protein powder and this and that. How did you decide to evaluate, okay, we're going with this company and this product?
That was at the time listening to the sales rep in the very beginning, even before I trusted him, like I do now. It was what do you have a great deal on that you think I could really do well with, and research it the same way we do vacuum bags. You look it up, you see what the reviews are. Is it getting good reviews, bad reviews? How long has it been out? Where's your where does it kind of fit on Amazon? If you Google it, is there 20 other things that come up before it that, you know, it's buried on the third of the search results? There's lots of little things here and there that you're looking at. You know, what's the sales rank on it? Is it, is your sales rank on it number one? Is it the number one item on Amazon? I think that's the Kindle, but you know, anyway, is it the number one in protein powders?
Right.
Because if it is, you might have a shot of moving quite a bit of volume. If it's number 300,000 in whatever, in sports nutrition, you're going to have a bad time. Have a real bad time. And you might want to think about just taking it yourself. And it's just kind of stuck. The same process works for everything. It just, whether it's sports nutrition or vacuum bags or baby carriers, you're looking at all the same information and making those fine calculations in your head on the fly a lot of times of, I want 2 of those or I want 60 of those. You learn it. It's a learned skill of doing it a lot of times. But in the beginning, you do have to be really cautious until you have that skill set.
So how do you compete? Because as you say, like with you, if someone's selling known brands, you can go on and let's say there's 30 other people selling these vacuum cleaners or whatever it is. What are some things that people can do to compete so that people are actually buying from them and not the 50 other people selling the same thing?
Ooh, you know, there's, if you're just taking a vacuum bag and saying, I want to sell a brand A vacuum bag and there's brand B, C, and D also listed, and you all of a sudden want that to be selling better, there's some tricks to it. It's a definite fine line of what I would want to go into.
Right. I like hitting these fine lines. So what can you share about competing with other sellers with the same brand that won't give away any of your secret sauce?
The same brand.
Same brand.
If we're all selling the same thing.
Yes.
The number one thing is you can defeat Amazon's buy box with price. You sell something for $5 cheaper on a $10 item, and you're able to ship it next day. You can probably get the buy box, and you can probably sell something.
You can lose a lot of money too, though.
You could. Yeah. You know, we are a very large FBA seller. We do a lot through Fulfillment by Amazon. Yeah. Because we do, you know, we'll do somewhere in the 1.5 million orders this year range. Well, shipping those all out of here.
Nuts.
Our staff, we have somewhere in the high 30s of staff. If we were to ship all those orders to individual customers and pack them and so forth and label everything to every individual customer, that's a lot more than just 30 people doing it. So we use that as we also don't have the space for it to stock all if we took everything back that we have in third-party warehouses, we wouldn't have room for it, unfortunately. So FBA, price, definitely when you're a small seller and you don't have a lot of reviews, it's harder. Some people like to buy from the little guy and give him a fair chance and so forth. But I know myself, I'm looking for who has, 100% feedback, and it's a lot of feedback. You know that they've done a lot of orders. Yeah. That, if I want a TV, I go to, Amazon. I go to Amazon now. Beforehand, when Amazon didn't exist, I'd go to Best Buy. Right. Because they were big and I trusted them. I don't go to, the guy selling it out of the back of his van. Right?
Of course, yeah.
So, it's the same concept online. Yeah. Where do you think of when you want to buy most stuff nowadays is Amazon. 40%, about 40% of product searches start on Amazon. So if you're not there, you're you're having a tough issue with relevance for your brand.
How do you decide whether to keep it in-house and ship it, or ship it all FBA?
There's not much that we ship out of here to customers for Amazon. So if it's an Amazon item, we'll FBA at 99+% of the time. Because they'll handle the shipping, they'll handle the returns, they'll handle, if it's late, the customer can call Amazon. And they can call Amazon 24 hours a day.
Right.
Which for us is great. And Amazon shipping rates are awesome. Any, real, even small seller, they can see what it costs to ship. Compare that to your own UPS rates, and your jaw's going to drop. It's awesome. Not as a plug for Amazon or anything, but their rates with whoever they ship with.
They can compete, yeah. They have buying power or whatever it is, yeah.
Yeah, their UPS rate has got to be just ridiculously low to be doing that.
So why ship anything out of a warehouse?
Well, if we're shipping to customers on our website, if we're shipping internationally, and so forth, and we want to control that customer experience, we stock, we have our warehouse that we stock everything in as well. So that way we can service international customers for a web platform that might not want you to be having a box show up from Amazon that, has a big old smile on the side of it, and they bought it on eBay or Newegg or something like that. We can still ship those. So that way we're not just blasting it out in front of customers' faces that, hey, if you bought on Newegg, but Amazon shipped it to you. So that's the reasoning behind it. As we get bigger, having control over our own website and so forth is needed. Yeah.
And that's the biggest thing, Tom, is how do you diversify? I mean, a lot of the sellers I talk to, they have a large percentage on Amazon. What advice do you have for people to diversify, and what tips, whether it's your, maybe start with your personal site, our pamperedhome.com or eBay or any other platforms. What do you recommend?
You need a good warehouse management system. And I've talked with Chad about Skubana a lot, and I've seen it from its infancy grow into what it is now. And I'm happy with what Chad has done. And for full disclosure, we are not a Skubana customer, but I can say that their software is great.
What did you think was good?
For where it's at now, it doesn't do everything that the largest guy out there does. That is a competitor of theirs. I don't know if you want to put it out there, but we're a Channel Advisor customer.
Is it just that that's a lot more expensive, or why do people not go with it?
Channel Advisor.
A Channel Advisor, is that the difference?
If we tried to be a Channel Advisor customer when we were real small, it would have been extremely expensive. Because their minimum per month for a small seller is pretty sizable. And we looked into Channel Advisor before we became a customer years later, actually. And we couldn't fade that monthly bill, unfortunately. Skubana's cheaper. From a entry level, you're paying per order. I like their interface. It's all cloud-based and so forth. For everything that we do here, for all our ordering and so forth, I have a custom computer built under here that runs all the software, because you put it on just a cheap $200 computer, and it'll smoke that computer.
Really?
Yeah, you'll be sitting, you can go do the dishes while you're waiting for spreadsheet calculations to happen.
Wow.
I love the computer I use. It's great. But not everybody wants to have that system, and the computing power in the cloud that Skubana has access to is great. there's the reason why we're a Channel Advisor customer is we're actually a managed client of theirs. So they do a lot of the kind of back end stuff with us that we wouldn't do ourselves a lot of times. They're a big help there for us, but it comes at a huge price.
So at what point, I'm sure you and Chad have had this conversation, and I'm just interested because for sales purposes and for sellers purposes, I'm sure you've had this conversation, and he's like, what would it take for you to become a SKU-bound customer? Or switch, is it just too big of a pain because you're such a big seller, or what?
There's some definite work there. We're the biggest we're in contract with Channel Advisor. We're in a not long term, but we're in a contract with them. So even if I switch, I'm still paying them, and then I'm going to pay
both,
which gets expensive.
I always and this is not a commercial. Obviously, SKU-bound sponsors this, but it's not a commercial for anyone vendor. But I always want to know, what is it in the head of the founder that would make him switch or stay the same?
If they do a lot of things that we have put together a lot of pieces of software ourselves over the years to do. But if we were much smaller than we are, and we were still trying to build these pieces of information, having them now at just one site at one company would have saved me so many hours of building out spreadsheets and ordering, programs and so forth. And I've given I've talked to Chad over the phone very candidly about, this is what I think your software should do, because this is what we do.
Right.
And if you can have, somebody build this in, it helps us so much that you just have to, have one of your programmers do what I did. And
you hack together different solutions that work for you. Yeah. So this is interesting. It's nothing like, Tom, learning from people and talking to people in the trenches. And you and Chad, they've started around the same time and have grown to today. What good advice have come out of your conversations with him?
Oh, man. In the beginning, when we were direct competitors...
Right, because that's another thing. You guys sold and were direct competitors. Yeah.
Yeah, you could split screen this from 6-7 years ago, when we were both much smaller, kind of growing, and you would be bleeping out most of this conversation because we weren't we were both small and at the time direct competitors, selling in the same listings, the same everything.
Right.
And it got to be, once Chad stepped into branding his own products, that there wasn't that direct competition in a listing competing for the buy box. He's competing for his brand, and we're selling a different brand.
Yeah. And so were you just sitting there, Tom, and you'd be just swearing at the screen and having his picture or his company name on the dartboard? I mean, you didn't know each other at the time, but you knew of each other.
We had talked over the phone.
Oh, you had?
We had spoken at some trade shows in the beginning.
Yeah.
And yeah, we weren't going out to dinner together or anything like that. But when you're small and you're kind of fearful for your business, and it's still my child of sorts, and I'm still going to fight for it.
Right.
But I'm not as fearful of, we're small and we can't really make any missteps. We can't let somebody come in and steal our business, to sell our products and so forth. And it was one of those, you don't want to ever let off the gas and stop trying. And yeah,
So what were some of those early conversations that helped that you actually, maybe something he said helped you, or vice versa?
We would discuss kind of it. We didn't really have great conversations until we got to be a little bit more sizable.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. Tell me about one of those. Yeah.
uh, now a lot of it is in regards to where are we going next? Where are we expanding? So we can bounce ideas off of each other. And I really feel like Chad and his company is growing into, there's Crucial Vacuum, which does very well, and he's built that brand to what it is. And now I feel like a lot of his desire, and he could correct me if I'm wrong, and I wouldn't mind at all, is going into building Skubana. And he still has great information and great insight into the next marketplace, which marketplaces are doing well for him, and we converse about what's doing well for us. We're on Jet, and he had some real maybe he had an opinion on Jet before it launched. I tend to think that his opinion was wrong. But it's really hard to compete with Amazon. But I think Jet really kind of threw us both for a loop, because we expected them to try to take on Amazon, and I feel like what Jet's doing is really trying to take on eBay, where people are really hungry for deals, where Amazon, they're really hungry for great service and fast shipping. And everything's on there. There's not everything on Jet yet, but the price that you get there is pretty good. We've compared notes on product and so forth, that products come and go. He's asked why we do one thing versus another. Why do we branch out? We used to go by a different seller name, and we rebranded ourselves this year to really kind of meet that specialty brand.
So our Pampered home is just this year?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
January 1st, we rebranded ourselves because our company has grown so quick.
Wow. I love that brand. Wow, yeah, that's great. I had no idea.
Kudos to my wife then.
Yeah,
I'll let her know.
So what was it before called?
Our online seller name was More Quality, Less Money. That's just what it was when we were real small.
Yeah.
And we transitioned
Your wife gets just gold star. That's amazing.
Yeah, our store has been Pampered Home Spoiled Family for a while.
Okay.
But try typing in Pampered Home Spoiled Family, and you're like squirrel, and you've already you typed in a couple words of it, and you're like, no, Amazon's easier. But our Pampered Home was shorter. It was available, and we rebranded because we're not going to sell every blender. We're not going to sell every set of glassware. We're going to sell the stuff that Walmart isn't selling.
You want the higher end stuff.
Yeah, because we can't compete against Walmart selling, solo cups.
Yeah.
Right. But we can compete against them selling a KitchenAid mixer.
Yeah.
Or a set of high-end glassware that they don't even offer. This specialty, and that's our bread and butter is stuff that isn't available from an Amazon, isn't available from a Walmart or a Best Buy or something along those lines. And we've been successful with it.
So Tom, how do you then tell me about the best way to diversify? How do you get more sales from your website? Because everyone doesn't want to depend on Amazon. No. What works as far as that goes?
You've got to get your products advertising out in front of people, because SEO is a long-winded, very time-consuming process, which we still struggle with to get a lot of natural search traffic. But oddly enough, and we can see through Google Analytics and so forth, how many people search for our brand and come straight from Amazon, and come straight from eBay, and come straight from Newegg to our site and purchase something there. That some people maybe don't have Prime, or maybe they don't want to shop on eBay, but that's where Google took them to. They see that we sell it, they come to our site, they buy it. But as far as getting people to your website, you cannot beat Google. Has anybody used a different search engine today?
Right.
There's some.
Yeah.
Google Shopping, their PLAs. I feel like their text ads are having some headwinds.
Mm-hmm.
But you can really advertise through their Google Shopping, and once you start using it, it's kind of cool.
Mm-hmm.
People see a picture, they can compare prices from 8, 10, 12, 50 different websites, depending on what the product is,
Mm-hmm.
and pick which one, suits their needs, whether it's by who has a lot of reviews, who has the best price, who, doesn't offer tax in their area.
So what else, what other platforms should people consider that are worth it? Obviously you mentioned Amazon is a big one, eBay, Jet. What other ones should people consider selling product on?
Your number one is Amazon. Amazon is, the 800-pound gorilla for online retail.
Yeah.
Our website's been around for, 10 months now? We're into the beginning of the year.
Yeah.
I'm blown away by the traction that we've gotten in 10 months for a website.
Really?
So we were very hesitant to have our own website for a long time. There's a lot of money. There's a lot of time into it and so forth.
Sure.
Design, develop, and so forth. And how do you get people to it? That's been a strong hitter given the time
Mm-hmm.
frame that it's been out there. eBay seems to be the number 2 if you're still looking to sell inside the United States.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like eBay is facing headwinds in the future if they don't adjust some things. Jet, I like Jet. It's only been out for a short period of time, but the site is promising. I'm a strong believer that a few years from now it's not going to be Amazon. I don't believe that, but I think that it's going to be more than it is today by a pretty strong margin.
Mm-hmm.
If you start getting into the Sears and the Rakuten and the Newegg's, there's business to be had there.
Yeah. It's just. Do you think it's worth it for someone to go on those?
As your sole source of business, or as
isn't it adjunct? Even as an adjunct, because it still does take time and resources to put stuff on there.
If you can manage them through a single venue,
mm-hmm.
then yeah. But if you're having to check Sears to see if you got an order today, and you're having to check Newegg to see if you got an order today, that's tough. That's a lot of work to have to be checking every individual venue. And
mm-hmm.
I know Skibana, you can have it all through one platform where, we are at with Channel Advisor, it's the same thing. There's incremental business, but if you're putting a lot of effort, you could probably do better with expanding your catalog for a few of the key marketplaces.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Would you still put all SKUs on those? Like, you go on Newegg, you put...
They don't charge you to put anything on there. So I guess what's the downside if you do?
Yeah.
We don't see there being a downside to having everything out there. I think our vendors really like us having, their product out there and having the exposure, because exposure is great. Having your products everywhere, and whether you're only getting a 1 or 2% increase in business from having it on Sears and a 1 or 2% from, Newegg or Rakuten, it's still, some percentage.
Still adds up.
And maybe they are just kind of browsing around on Newegg for a computer, which is what they're known for. But they say, hey, I like that widget. I'm going to, when I do go to Amazon and buy something, I'm going to buy it there. Or they see that you give them a good experience on Newegg, and maybe they do buy, from your own website.
Right.
There's, we don't see a downside to it at all. And once we started branching out into the international markets, it's a whole other beast and animal on its own.
Yeah.
But,
what made you decide to do that? Because that is another headache, possibly.
Really trying to, how do you maintain a 40% growth rate year over year, which is what we definitely plan and expect to do. If we go from doing 1.5 million orders on Amazon to what 2.1 or so, 2.25 a year on Amazon, that's a big catalog change.
Right.
And if e-commerce is only growing at 15%, we have to grow the catalog the rest of the way to get there.
Right.
But if we can just list everything out onto another marketplace, and Amazon, international marketplace, or whatever the other, venues are that are out there, you don't have to grow your catalog as much. And if we go from 10,000 SKUs to 14,000 SKUs, which is a 40% change, it's a whole lot harder to go from 14 to whatever 40% more than that is, than it is,
branch out to another country.
Yeah.
So how do you decide which countries to branch out into, or can you just do them all at once?
I guess if you have the manpower and the patience to do them all at once, you can. We're looking at the UK and Canada as the go-to places. Canada's not too difficult because if you're up north, which we aren't, but you can drive there, you can get freight there via the road. Europe and the UK, really Europe, they're synonymous to me, sorry. But going to the UK, there's a lot of business to be had there. Shipping is your nightmare, though. Shipping, VAT, you got to pay the queen for, her cut of the pie, and import duty, being the importer of record, all that is a nightmare. And even at our scale, it's a nightmare. It's something that I wish there was easier ways to deal with it, to grow that business. But, every country wants to make it difficult for you.
They want their piece, right?
Yeah.
What can you tell me about the website? Because it seems like you took a lot of care into the layout, where things are.
Yep.
Is there can you talk about the thought process, conversion-wise, and why you put certain things where, and why you did it?
We consulted a lot with our designer when it was being developed and rolled out as to how we wanted the look and feel. And you don't have to reinvent the wheel.
Right.
You really don't. It's not something that, if you look at 100 other really good websites, or 10 really good other websites, that you can't kind of surmise what is Pottery Barn doing, or what is Wayfair doing, what is Amazon doing, and where do they put stuff, and why do you think they put it there? They've probably already done that research for you.
Right.
They know where the buy box should be. They know where the the little cart should be, and so forth on your page. If you look at all kinds of different websites, they all tend to take the same shape and form.
Yeah. What surprised you with what the designer said that was working well in e-commerce?
Really, what surprised me the most was I gave them a lot of free reign of this is our kind of vision, but it's not set in stone. That give us some ideas, and because our ideas aren't always the right ones, we listen to everybody on everything that we do. Sometimes it goes in one ear and out the other if we think it's a terrible idea, but at the same time, you at least had the opportunity to get that feedback. They still work with us on a consistent basis and are still giving us input. How do we get more natural search traffic, through SEO and so forth? How do we, really structure our landing pages, which is a constant process. That they build, websites for countless companies, and they're doing it all day long. They know what works. So you just kind of take a lot of what they say as gospel, but but don't be afraid to ask questions of anything.
So what they say worked that you were surprised with the landing pages?
Really, it's how you structure a lot of the categorization, giving people a clear flow from where they get to the website to how they navigate to home and kitchen, to small appliances, to blenders and so forth. That
I'm just looking over here because I'm looking at I have another screen here. I'm looking at I'm not breaking eye contact.
I've got four.
Okay.
Here,
I
so
know. So I'm just looking at our Pampered Home and how you have the categories. You have home and kitchen, toys and games, baby, health and fitness, beauty supplies, pet supplies, and brands. Because when I first went to the site, it has a really really nice layout, and it almost easily allows me to kind of go down, and the next column is like new arrivals, on sale, and bestsellers. And then the next is just a bunch of the top, brand products. So I wanted you to talk about that because I knew there was like a method to why you put things on the page there.
We looked at how our categories were laid out on Amazon as well, because Amazon has categorization of home and kitchen and electronics and so on and so forth. And we don't sell in all those categories, but we can at least take the ones that we do and not mimic exactly, but close enough that it works for our catalog.
Gotcha.
And really, you want to keep the most important information above the fold on your page. Beyond that, it's just what the standard layout is of any website. I'm sure that we looked at Pottery Barn and Wayfair and your big e-commerce sites. That's where they have stuff. And I probably scribbled it out on a piece of paper and I scanned it in to my scanner and sent it over to the designer and said, that's
what's working, and just why reinvent the wheel?
Yeah. You don't have to reinvent the wheel as far as how stuff's laid out. It's how you deal with your customers. It's what you offer them. That's really been what we've strived to reinvent of sorts.
That's one thing I did get with the limited information I could find about you. I did get, Tom, that's one of the biggest things that you take pride in is the great customer service. So what ways do you use customer service that other companies should be modeling?
You want to listen to the customer. You want to be able to help them. If they have an issue, just think of how you want to be treated. If I call up whatever company, they screwed up my order. I go to dinner and they screwed up my meal. It might not be the server's fault of sorts, and it's likely not the customer service person's fault for screwing up whatever they got. But take ownership of it. Apologize. Say, hey, I'm sorry that you got this and it was broken. We shipped you wine glasses and they're fragile. I'm sorry they broke. I'm sorry that, whatever it may be, and we'll fix it. And there's a lot of times that we'll lose money, sizable, amounts comparatively to the order to make it right for that customer. But if you put that time and effort into making sure that you get the orders right, you're going to have to deal with so many fewer customers that got something wrong. And our error percentage with our orders it's exceptionally small. If I was to pull it up, it's one every couple of days, and we're doing thousands a day of orders, which is great. There's still customer service issues. Hey, my order didn't get here on time, or where is my order? And those are easy enough to deal with. But it's really that negative experience that you want to turn into a positive one. Because that customer is then going to say, hey, I ordered from our Pampered Home and they shipped me wine glasses and they were broken into bits when they got to me. But they shipped me new ones. They were here, nice and quick. And, they took care of me as a customer. And then they're going to go tell their friends and say, I had a positive experience, instead of ranting on some website about, hey, I got I got this pack of vacuum bags and it didn't fit,
Right.
which happens a lot. Hey, they don't know what they want, or they don't know what they need for vacuum bags. They buy something
They
that they
order the
think
wrong
will work.
thing.
Yeah, I ripped them open and I bought them, and I didn't get the right thing. That's fine. Sorry about your luck. Let's get it fixed.
Right.
Let's figure out what you need, versus just telling them, hey, go to hell.
So you teach your
don't
customer, the people who answer the phone, the customer service, to one, take ownership, apologize, take ownership of it, and just fix it. How much leeway do they have to just, yeah, this is a $800 vacuum or something, we'll just ship you a new one? Or how much leeway do they have, or do they have, is there a certain process, as someone listening who maybe manages a lot of staff, what things do you put in place, or how do you lead that?
My customers, I give them a lot of leeway, and I used to be a real micromanager as we were a smaller company. But if there's an $800 vacuum cleaner and they got the wrong one, let me know. I don't want you just shipping out another $800 cleaner to somebody because they said they got the wrong something, or it came broken or whatever. Let's figure that one out.
Right.
But if it's hey, I got glasses and they're shattered to bits, they've got a lot of leeway there. But as far as my style of managing now, my style of managing when we were small was my office, my desk was in the warehouse. I was from here to 30 feet away was people packing and processing an order. No walls, no nothing. That we could micromanage a lot easier. And as we've scaled, I've given up a lot of that control to people, and it's really liberating. I know that when you're small, you want to protect it and so forth, but as you get bigger, other people are gonna help you run your business, and that kept me up a lot of nights trying to do everything. I would stress out about it, freak out. I couldn't sleep. Went to the doctor because I couldn't sleep.
Really?
And it was, the stress of trying to make everything perfect myself, just was tough. So give some of that control up to your customer service people, your warehouse people, and they'll take pride in it. They will. And they should be, thanked for it. And I don't, if any of my employees watch this, please know that I am thanking you for your hard work. Because for me, if you don't hear from me, you're doing a good job. And the longer you're here and you work here, you know that. Because I'm not going out there patting everyone on the butt saying good job. You'll know if you screw up.
So how do you handle that as a leader? When things are going well and smooth, that's good. How do you handle as a leader if things aren't going well or someone makes a mistake?
You want to deal with the problem and use it as a learning experience. If you ship something to Amazon FBA, and you ship 20 of them and you labeled them wrong, you stickered them wrong, and you get a customer that says, I got the wrong thing, and say, what did you get? Is it something that really could be, is it a picking error? What does the sticker say on it? If not, don't wait for that next customer to tell you, hey, I got something wrong as well, and you sell through them and you get them all as a return. Pull them back. It's not that much money. It's a whole lot better to bring them back, assess it, get them back to Amazon once you know they're right, than just gambling on the next 20 customers getting something wrong. And if it is wrong, pull everybody aside. It literally, I'll go out in the warehouse sometimes and just yell, hey, everybody, get over here. We're going to learn from this in 60 seconds or less.
Right.
And you deal with it, and on your way, get back to work. But that 60 seconds or 2 minutes or 3 minutes is a whole lot more valuable than just having everybody mindlessly go and do something wrong 100 times over, what does it really cost you to take a few minutes and it's an hour, it's maybe $10, $15 in labor to have that learning experience, and everybody now knows what it is instead of just hearing it through the grapevine at lunch or something.
So, Tom, we talked about your conversation with Chad, and the big things is what's next? What's on the horizon? What do you see as the next phase for our Pampered Home?
We're going to continue expanding our catalog. We're always searching for new products. We're really doing a lot to build out our website, advertise. We're building some of those strategic relationships with vendors that we have. Taking some of the products that we think we're stepping out a little bit more and taking some products that are doing okay and really running with them and advertising them with the vendor and building up your sales ranks on Amazon, getting some traffic to the website. Our website's growing at a very solid clip, far more than 40% a year. When we look at just month over month, it's growing a lot faster than any other part of our business right now. And trying to build that out into a name, people that know about it. Excuse me. And are constantly coming to us. They bought a blender, and now they're going to buy a vacuum, and now they're going to buy a toaster, and then a baby stroller, and a gift, a toy. They're going to buy a couple gifts for their friends. They're going to buy a bridal shower gift. They're going to buy their wine glasses, and give them that level of service that they deserve as a paying customer, and offer them products that are unique to what we don't offer everything. We offer far less than a lot of other sellers do, but the stuff we do offer is quality goods, and try to get them to come back. It's a whole lot cheaper to have a customer come back to you than to always find a new one. And that's a big push of ours is growing that portion of it.
Yeah. So, Tom, since this is this Hubana e-commerce mastery series, I just have a few more questions. This has been fantastic. The first is best sellers. What surprised you the most as far as either a product or category that has been just selling like gangbusters for you?
I'm always surprised at how many vacuum bags we sell.
I am surprised every time I hear someone talk about selling vacuum bags.
Yeah. We do. That's a big, just from a quantity sold.
Yeah.
It's amazing how many you can sell. They're not, necessarily the most expensive item, so you're not doing a huge amount of revenue from it, and margins pretty much razor thin.
Yeah.
But what's really, starting to surprise us is some of the, we do well with pets. That's kind of an emerging category for us, of sorts. We still don't have as much data as we would like, because it's new to us. But we're our Pampered Home. So home is still our bread and butter, our backbone to the business, is what do people buy for their really home and kitchen, is what we would, class it as a brand. And we're not trying to, fix what's not broken. It's working for us. It's worked year over year for a lot of time. So, we branch out and we do add, some pet stuff, some baby stuff. We're doing, well with the beauty category, even though it's really gated and restricted. So you do have to be very careful there.
What do you mean it's restricted?
You can't just go buy, Calvin Klein cologne or something from a wholesaler and list. You might be able to that product, but for example, you can't buy Calvin Klein cologne from a wholesaler and list it on Amazon to sell it. Part of it is Amazon's stance on beauty stuff is if you ingest it and eat it, or you put it on your skin, your face, whatever, that they want to vet you as a seller first, which is, you'll just have a listing restriction. You can't list it until you've either, proven your, I'll use the word worthiness, but it's not,
You're pretty vetted, though.
Yeah, we're fine.
Okay, I was going to say.
Yeah, we can, fortunately, and, knock on wood. But yeah, if we want to sell beauty products, it's a matter of, proving the authenticity and where'd you get it, chain of, not chain of command, but chain of ownership.
Right,
We didn't just buy it from the guy out of his van who was,
poured
selling
into bottles that say Calvin Klein.
Yeah. And everything we buy is all legitimate goods and so forth.
Yeah.
And we buy, the vast majority of our stuff direct from the manufacturer. So, if Amazon wants to see an invoice of where something came from, I'll just send it right over.
Right.
There's no reason to hide any of it. If Amazon really wants to know the vendor, they have 10,000 people or something probably buying product. They don't need me to tell them where to buy it. So why do I care if I send them an invoice?
Right. So what are some of the best actionable tips, since we're drawing to a close here, what are some of the best actionable tips people should start doing right now to increase their e-commerce business? Because we talked a lot about a lot of different things. Where should people start?
You first have to have an idea of what you want to sell and sell something that you like. Be passionate about it. Know that you're not going to get bored of it, 2 weeks from now and just get lazy and sloppy. The second is organization. That as an e-commerce retailer, and we suffer from it sometimes as well with the volume that we do, is staying super organized, knowing what you have, where you have it, and that organization will make your life so much easier in the long run. We've had the opportunity to tour an Amazon warehouse just recently, and the amount of what you would say is empty space, meaning the aisles, room to move around and see what you have, is, they have a lot of money to build these very large warehouses, but there's a reason why there's, great organization, everything's labeled, everything has its own place, so they can find it. And
yeah, right. They have a lot of warehouses in Vegas area.
Yeah, they have. I think they have a few in Vegas, Reno, Phoenix. We actually went all the way to the East Coast to view one, but jumped at the chance because not every day that they invite you there.
So what did you learn? What else did you learn by going up close and personal?
Unfortunately, I do have a non-disclosure.
Oh, really?
Agreement. Yeah. We have a couple non-disclosure agreements with Amazon for some of the, stuff that we've been given.
This top secret drone that's dropping things.
Yeah, there's nothing, there's nothing like crazy that, there's robots walking around or something, that is just going to blow your mind. But some of the, stuff.
Some of the procedures, you mean they want to keep private, or?
Yeah, I would think so.
Yeah.
But, from the layout of everything, we run into space constraints just because we don't have the square footage that we need. But when you're there and you can see how clean, literally I would have eaten a sandwich right off the floor. That's how awesome their warehouse. It's clean, it's organized, there's empty space. And I tell our warehouse all the time since we've been there, there is nothing wrong with having some nice empty space to work in. There's, just imagine if your desk is piled with clutter, versus you have space to operate in. You will get more done when you have some space to move around in.
That's interesting. So do they only invite like some of the top sellers? Is that?
We're a strategic account with Amazon. So we have an account manager who put our name on the list and was invited. But I know that you can go to like a commercial, like the grade school tour. They'll take you through, they'll show you some stuff. But as like a seller in their program, we got to see a little bit more and hear a little bit more than the grade school tour. But it's they're not all of a sudden turning over their software to us. I would be more than happy to jump at the chance to lease it from them or something, but there's a reason why Amazon is as big as they are, and some of their systems that are in place will blow your mind. If you ever get a chance to go tour one, even the grade school level, and just to see inside is really, you'd really have a lot of fun.
So, Tom, what's been the proudest moment that you've had with the business?
I take a lot of pride in just proving people wrong. A lot of people said there's no way you're going to be able to sell stuff online and make a living at it. You can sell stuff, but it's not a full-time job. It's not something that you're going to be able to pay, ever have a life doing. And this was, 8, 10, 12 years ago. And if somebody tells me I can't do something, they're pretty much daring me to do it. You can't make money doing this, or you can't, make a living doing that. And proving them wrong was really I'm proud of proving them wrong, but it's really that motivating factor there. Once we hit 1 million sales a year, I really felt like, wow.
That's amazing.
And I have a personal, ritual of sorts. You always want to set yourself a reward, a personal reward of once you hit whatever that milestone is, do something. Take yourself out to dinner. Buy yourself a...
So what's yours?
Because of the amount of credit card purchases that we do, we have a lot of credit card points.
You can fly around the world a couple times.
Yeah, we tend to go on some decent vacations. And I've got to enjoy that. The credit card points are great to just be able to, book a flight, book a hotel, whatever, all on points. And in the beginning it was, me and my wife would just go out to dinner, and we'll, make it a special, get all dressed up and go out to a nice meal. But it can be anything. It could be you're gonna buy yourself. If my wife had her way, she would, every time a milestone was hit, she's gonna buy herself a new purse. Make it something, because if it's something that means a lot to you and you like doing it, you're gonna work hard to achieve that goal. And that's something that I always work towards, is achieving that next milestone.
I mean, after not taking a paycheck for years, not sleeping, or very little, and stressing out, what's the most indulging, night out or vacation that you ended up giving yourself, much deserved?
As far as night out, I would be embarrassed to, and it's nothing embarrassing like we went streaking or something, but we'll go to some nice dinners. And it's, you go find yourself a nice steakhouse or whatever type of food you like. And me and my wife will book dinner at, 7 o'clock, and we'll shut the restaurant down, just sitting there, talking for hours. And, we'll turn a dinner into a 3 or 3.5 hour tour. Not eating the whole time, but, just enjoying, relaxing, just decompress after hitting that milestone. As far as vacations, I like the beach, Hawaii, Mexico, Southern California, that we've been able to travel there a number of times and really like it. So everybody's different, though.
Tom, this has been amazing. And my last question is, tell me, what advice would your wife give people, and how much she's really contributed to the business? As I can see, just the name in itself, she that's amazing. But what advice would she give people?
Can you give me a second?
Yeah, go ahead.
Um, I discussed this with her last night.
Yeah.
You can edit this
No,
in,
I
right?
don't edit anything. It's just,
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't want to have dead air.
No, that's fine. It's
Um,
like a normal conversation, you know?
yeah, her feedback would, jokingly, she would probably say, just listen to her and everything will be good.
Right. Which is probably
But
partially true.
in reality, uh, you know, it's she's the one that really got annoyed buying something that she didn't like. She doesn't want to buy vacuum bags. It's do something that makes you happy.
Yeah.
And from from us as husband and wife, as personal couple, not business related,
Right.
If your business has ups and downs, don't freak out. This whole business could go away, and as long as it's the two of us and we've got our dog, we'll be fine. Like with it, you want to go through, and we went through some really hard times. You want to go through some hard times to know what the even medium good times, whatever they are going to be. Our hardest times were tough, and they were when this business, started, right before it started, when things were, for us, bad. But having those bad times taught us to work hard, to save money, to enjoy what you have.
Mm-hmm.
More so than buying that purse of sorts. The purse is nice, but as long as you're healthy and you can have some food to eat and a roof over your head.
You have that gratitude and appreciation for where you were.
She taught me a lot of that, and she's we stuck it out through that really bad time, and we had some support there from people, and I know that I never want to go back there. It's almost like outside of you graduate high school or you graduate college and go broke. Just I don't care. Go broke for 6 months.
Right.
Have a hard time, hard experience.
Right.
Set up all your credit cards. Live on the change out of your couch cushions. I guarantee you'll work harder for the rest of your life after that.
Yeah.
I know I did. I know, because you don't want to, go back to, do I have top ramen, or do I just save it for tomorrow?
Yeah.
I'm not a top ramen eater, but hypothetically,
right.
You have to have a respect for what you could have, because it could be, everything could go away tomorrow.
Yeah.
I don't do that. I actually don't do this business for the money. I don't at all. I do it because I like it. I like putting up the next bigger number. I like selling more of that vacuum bag than I did last year. It's a personal competition. I just want to, do better myself.
Yeah.
And the real support in this business, my dad, who's the other owner, we probably don't need to continue growing the business to pay our bills for quite some time.
Yeah.
But we want to, we want to, give people a job. We want to keep them their job. We want to, to push ourselves. Because you go through a hard time, and you'll learn to. That would be her advice.
Yeah. Tom, this has been fantastic. Thank you finally for speaking out and not always under the radar. Where should we point people towards? What site should we send them to?
If our Pampered Home is our website, you can contact them for there. I don't just give out my email address. I'll end up with 100 emails more than I need in a given day.
Yeah.
But if somebody wants to get a hold of me or anyone at this company, our website's Our Pampered Home.
Yeah.
We sell on Amazon as Our Pampered Home is our seller name. We've pretty much branded ourselves that way everywhere. And if anybody has questions, comments, whatever, talk to us. We stopped being so closed off, and I wish that there was a lot more openness in e-commerce, because I remember, and still to this day, there's questions that we have that I know somebody else has the answer to.
Right.
But if you call up, the guy next to you selling, you're not really sure
with them. Yeah.
You don't know what that reception will be. So, yeah, we've become more of an open book now, because you realize that one person can't necessarily put you out of business. You can only put yourself out of business.
Yeah.
So comparing notes is not a bad thing.
Yeah. Well, Tom, I really appreciate it. Thank you so much.
No problem. Thank you. I appreciate your time.